Right, so we can file it around here. This is our drill press. This is actually fairly small. This is a benchtop drill press. It sits on a table, where some of them go straight to the ground. Anytime you're drilling with the drill press, you're also going to use a cutting oil. So the little can right here, this is to save your drill bit. If your drill bit gets hot, it loses its temper and it won't cut. It'll get dull, and it will either break or it will cause damage to your material. So we want to keep it cool by using cutting oil. Some people just use regular automotive oil or different types of oil. There is specific cutting oil that helps cool the bit quickly and get the heat away. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set up my drill press to put a drill bit in it. So I'm going to open the jaws of the chuck. This is the chuck. By twisting the top of the chuck clockwise. I will set my bit in there, and it'll come back counterclockwise, and it'll kind of tighten these guys down. There are three jaws, and they close together, so you want to make sure it's in the center. You want at least an inch of your drill bit in the chuck. So if you have a 3-inch or 2.5 inch drill bit, really you can only drill a hole that big, which is maybe 2 inches, because you've got to have an inch in the chuck to keep it safe and to actually give it enough of an ability to grip onto it. Once I've got it in there, I'm going to use my chuck key, which is on a chain attached to the machine. I'm going to put that in here, and you see these teeth. I'm going to tighten that down. It needs to be, what's the saying, monkey tight, not gorilla tight, right? Like a gorilla is going to crank that thing down so tight you can't even get it off. Then you have to remove the chuck key, okay? And I say this not because it's funny, but because it's happened before where somebody left it in. I leave this in and I turn it on. Best case scenario, it rips the chain off and whips me 50 times before I can turn it off. Worst case scenario, it throws it across the room and hits somebody else, and now you've hurt somebody else, right? So even though maybe you didn't get hurt, that's, in my case, a worst case scenario. Remember to remove your chuck key and get it out of the way of the spinning material. This drill press has a start and stop right here at the top, and you can move the bed up and down by loosening this set screw here, and you can move the table down or up. When you do that, keep in mind that this hole here is designed so that you can drill through this hole and not into the table. These other holes, right, these little divots here, this is because somebody wasn't paying attention. They drilled into the metal when they moved it. So you can move it side to side and up and down when you do that. This will allow us to clamp onto a piece of small material. Do not be tempted to bring this up. And inevitably somebody will do this semester. They'll set it up here like this, and they'll be like, oh, I'm just gonna hold this, right? And you'd be surprised, and you might be able to get away with it, right? It grabs because you're cutting metal with metal. This is a tempered bit. This is a untempered mild steel. Mild steel is softer, tempered steel is harder. So the drill bit will cut through this softer steel. Well, if you press down too hard, which frequently happens, it will bind, and then it'll start spinning this thing around. And then that's like a sharp, hard thing spinning around. That's why we're wearing gloves. So I want to stress that you try not to hold on to, like if I had a 2-foot piece, I have so much leverage I can overpower the machine, right, with a 2-foot piece. Because up here is belts, right? It's not gear driven, they're belts. So those belts will start slipping if it binds. If it starts slipping and squealing, it's hit off, right? So if I'm doing something where I can't really clamp it, or if I have a large piece of material, it can be okay to just hold the piece of material. But we want to, with small things especially, we want to get them held by either a vise or a clamp that we can clamp here. Have a question, Jeff?
Yeah, we originally want to adjust the RPMs on it, or we just want to leave that?
So we could adjust the RPMs on this. For now, we're not going to really want to mess with that. There's a number of ways of doing that. On this machine, I believe that's set from the top here. We're kind of set for a generic setting here. It's a little bit more of an advanced technique, but that is a good question. You can adjust the RPMs. You can see on the top here, it'll tell you, depending on what you're cutting, some things you want to cut slower, some things you want to cut faster. When I'm cutting, you're not probably going to be able to see this on the camera, might not be able to see it very well. I'm going to clamp this in here, and all it's doing is holding that angle iron. And you could potentially put a block of other material in here to hold that a little bit more. All I'm going to do is, this is going to give me something I can hold on to, and I can clamp this to the table as well. And there's a spot right here for a bolt on either side, and it can clamp into these slots. Something like this, I'm not too worried. So when I'm cutting, I want to see ribbons coming off of my drill bit, not chips. I don't want little chips of material, I want ribbons of material, which means I have a sharp drill bit. I'm going to start by squirting a little bit of oil on top of my material where I'll be cutting it, and I can lower this down with this arm here, with this three little arms. I can lower it down and be like, that's where I want it, X marks the spot, that's exactly where I'm going to drill my hole, and I can line it up before I turn it on. Then put my safety glasses down, start it, I'm going to hold my vise, and I come down slowly, 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 very little pressure. I'm going to add pressure, and as I add pressure, it's going to cut through. If I have something thick, I can feel it break through there. And I'm done. I turn it off. I've just cut through an 1/8 inch piece of material. I really don't have to apply more oil because it's only an 1/8 of an inch. If I'm drilling through something more than 1/8 of an inch, I'll drill about an 1/8 of an inch down. I'll squirt another little squirt of oil into the hole. I'll keep drilling. Every so often I'm putting oil in there. If it starts to smoke at all, you're already too hot. If it's smoking, you have enough heat to where it's about to light on fire, potentially. I've never had a drill bit cause enough friction to light on fire, but if it's smoking, you've either applied too much pressure too quickly, and it'll dull your drill bit. I'm going to see if I can pull. This is what you want to see coming off of your drill bit. It's a little ribbon. I kind of broke it. But you want that little ribbon coming off, not a chip. It's sharp if it's making a ribbon. It's always going to drill faster. My dad always said sharpness is horsepower. If it's a sharp tool, you have less energy or power that you have to put into the tool. Any questions about drill press? All right, let's head back over and cut some threads. Let's go.